Alrighty, so I'm wearing a hat because my hair looks like this underneath. I need to get a haircut. And I'm also coming down with a cold, so this is going to be kind of an interesting experience. But I wanted to talk a little bit about one of my favorite cameras that I've ever owned, the Olympus XA4 macro. I'll try to put that up there for you. It's a full frame compact um, 35 millimeter camera, made in the 80s. There was a series of the Olympus XA. Um, the XA, the original one, and the XA2 and the XA3. They all sort of like they sort of like went down in terms of being more for amateurs, but as you went up the number. But the XA4 is kind of an exception. It's a really fantastic camera. It's just great. So it's got this clamshell body, very very compact. I'll show you. See if I have another camera here to compare. This is another small-ish rangefinder, and you can see. Here, let me get it up here. You can see how much smaller it is. It's just real tiny. It's great. It's also very light, and despite the plastic body, or well, no, actually not all of it's plastic. So the clamshell's plastic, but the rest of it's metal. It's very, it's quite strong. It's been with me all over the place. I've taken it hiking. I've done all kinds of stuff with it. The great stuff about this camera is the earlier XA models allowed you. Some of them gave you a focus control. Some of them gave you an f-stop control. I find the focus control is more useful. The metering system in here is really quite good. So it gives you infinity to 1 foot macro. And what's awesome is it's a 28 millimeter lens. So there we go. We'll give it a second to focus. It's a 28 millimeter lens. So it's about as wide as you can go before you start getting like ultra wides, basically. And with the macro, it's really awesome. It means you can get up real close and get a lot in the frame. There's a few other little things about it that I really like. I was just making the beeping sound because it has a backlight control, so it can adjust by 1.5, 1.5 stops when you have a strong backlight behind your subject. So if you want to avoid a silhouette, it'll basically overexpose right here and ignore what's behind it, which actually works really well. Then it also has a battery check, which makes this annoying noise like that. And then finally, it has a self-timer. And the self-timer shows up in this little, I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want to take a picture of my computer, but it shows up in this right here. It beeps slowly for like a few seconds, and then it beeps quickly for a few seconds, and then boop, it goes. I think it's about 10 to 15 seconds of a self-timer. I want to say 10. Anyway, also has a tripod socket down here and the battery cap. This is just an awesome camera. I mean, you have to get used to, if you haven't done zone focusing before. So again, this is not an SLR. Like when you look through the viewfinder, you can't focus through it. There's no prism. So you have to get used to doing the zone focusing system, where you have to kind of know the difference between 1 foot and 1 foot 7 inches, etc. If I had gotten this in completely mint condition, and the camera is rare enough on its own, to get it with a strap is kind of tough too. It actually has, it usually comes with a strap that links in here that I think it's a foot long, so it shows you, your closest focus. I've kind of gotten used to what 1 foot looks like from just practice. I have seen rarely, very rarely, I would really like to know more about it if anybody knows anything about it. I saw an Olympus, and I'm not sure which model of Olympus XA it was, that had a data back on it. Real weird, a data back. I don't know what. It was really cool though. If I could get a hold of that, I would. It also has, it comes with different flash strengths. I happen to have the A16, which is the strongest flash that you can get. It just very easily links on here with this little wheelie. Man, I guess that's easy. And so this is as big as the camera gets when you have the flash on it. To be honest, I hardly ever use the flash. It's a good flash. It has good like push to it. It's got some oomph. But honestly, this thing goes down to like a 10-second exposure or shutter speed. So, I mean, if you can set it up so that you can make use of that longer exposure time, I would say do it over a flash anytime. Personally, the way I handle that is I'm just gonna screw this guy on here. I got one of these little tiny Gorilla Pods by Joby that has the little magnetic feet, just because for many circumstances I find that useful. Here, I'll show you kind of what's going on down here. Now it looks like a terrifying spider creature. Anyway, so if I use it on this like fairly stable, very light, this is extremely light and small, the whole thing here, this doesn't even weigh a pound, maybe like half a pound, 8 ounces. Anyway, if you put it on this little tripod-y guy, you can make use of those longer shutter speeds. And I've actually gotten some of my best shots out of the Olympus that way. And I really like to take night shots in long exposure times anyway. It's not going to come out right now. Anyway, it's just like spinning. The Olympus XA4 is just, it's a great camera to have. You can have it in your bag all the time. The only bummer about it is it's not necessarily perfect for street photography if you like to get up closer to faces. You know, 28mm lens is not the ideal lens for that. I would actually probably recommend the original XA with the 35mm 2.8 lens and exposure control if you wanted to do like street photography that focuses on faces or bodies in more detail. But for handling sort of landscapes and also making the best use out of the close focus abilities of it, I think people kind of underappreciate using a wider lens way up close. But I recommend it. You can get some really neat shots. Anyway, the Olympus XA4 is kind of tricky to get a hold of now. It's definitely the rarest of the Olympus XA series. Generally, I've seen them go on eBay between, I managed to steal mine for like 50 to 70 bucks. It was pretty cheap when I got it. But I've seen them regularly go from between 150 to 250. Because there's people that really dig these. They're kind of a cult classic, and also, frankly, they're really a decent camera. So if you can get a hold of one on eBay for less than $100, grab it. Alrighty.